Well, my parents were some of the original um, co-founders of Clinton. They were some of the first ones that started Clinton, and Dad was always active on the board. And so I was the youngest of 8 children, and so we all went through Clinton. And then when I got out of school, got married and had children, all four of my children went through Clinton. All four of them went. Of course, then they started with kindergarten. I never went through kindergarten, but they had kindergarten K through 12. Math was, I love my math. Um, Geometry was intriguing for me. It taught me how to think and solve problems. And that was, I use that today yet. My wife laughs at me when I say I use geometry. She said, well, geometry was, yeah, that was just confusing. And I said, well, yeah, but you learn some principles there of how reasoning and how to eliminate this and that, and never give up. Look at problems from all different angles. And that was a high point, I think, of my high school. And Dennis was a very good teacher, but he drove us really hard. And so he taught us to how to think. Don't give up on this story problem, because there is an answer and you can find it. And he helped us establish that willingness of us just to keep on going and never quit. Well, for an organization to last that long, you've got to provide a very good high level of service in your product, which is obviously education. And I think Clinton has done that. And there's always been dedicated people that believed in the Christian education idea. And I think the one thing that it taught me was that the Bible is real and it's true. And we can use the Bible in every area of our lives, whether it's math, whether it's whatever it is. The Bible speaks to that. There's principles in there we can use in our daily lives on that. I think that's been the bedrock thing that was ingrained in me at Clinton. Now, about 2 or 3 years after I graduated, they started the Bible memory program, which I really wish I'd have been in that, to discipline myself to do that. Our kids today, they still know some of those passages that they memorized in school. And that's incredible. That's incredible when you can hide that stuff in your heart and make it fun to memorize scripture. That's incredible. Yeah, the one thing about school is that when you can learn a principle and then put it to practice, then you memorize it and it gets in your system and you understand it and then you learn it for life. One of the things was a high level of education. I know Ashley said that when she went to IUSB, her freshman year was just like a review of everything she learned in high school. And she said, Dad, she said, I've learned all this. And a lot of my co-students they don't know what they're even thinking about. They're so far behind me academically because I was that far ahead. And she hadn't taken any college courses or anything like that. They didn't offer at that point. And so it was like, I understood then that they are getting a high level of education. But the other thing for my kids was just a good spiritual foundation in their lives. And what was being taught at home and in the church was being reinforced in their friends and in their education. And that's important. We had some really, like our first grade teacher was incredible. I mean, and she didn't just teach, she loved you. And she taught you to love learning. And that's important. When you had a teacher that doesn't just teach the ABCs and that type of thing, but she teaches you all those other social skills that you need. And I think that was one of the things. Ashley was a type of person that tied into some of those teachers early. And that's what took her into the educational field, because she enjoyed that so much. And she had those people pour into her lives. You know, as a farmer and a farming family, we really, really pinched pennies to send our kids to Clinton. And there was times when I was behind in my tuition because there just wasn't enough to reach around. But we felt like this was so important for our kids. And we were going to make every sacrifice we had to do that. And I seen that in my parents too. My parents are the same way. There was years where they couldn't pay all their tuition. But Dad was committed to doing that. And it made an impact on me, how important Christian education is. And like you said, my kids benefited from that tremendously. Not saying that they couldn't have excelled in a public school, but I think it gave them an edge on a lot of different things in their life.